Thank you very much, Mr. Merchant. With protocol having been established by our Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Merchant, I need to ask you to kindly indulge me as I recognize Her Excellency, Dame Louise Latak, our Honorable Prime Minister Baldwin Spencer, Cabinet Ministers, officers, and representatives of the OECS territories, Director General Dr. Len Ishmael of the OECS Secretariat, dignitaries of government and NGOs, members of the immediate past board of the Mount St. John Medical Center, and colleague members of the board of the Cancer Center Eastern Caribbean, my partner, the Honorable Professor Dr. Arthur Porter, and my newfound partner, Mr. Gordon Balsa of MEI Healthcare Incorporated, my wife and pediatric hematologist, oncologist, Dr. Corinne St. Brown, ladies and gentlemen, and to all the OECS and Caribbean people in radio and TV land, a good and great morning to you all that the good and gracious Lord has given us. I bring warm greetings from my staff and families of the Bahamas Heart Center, the Cancer Center Bahamas, the Medical Pavilion Bahamas, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and my partner and friend and Global Health Partners Limited, the Honorable Arthur Porter, and all of our associates, our partner again, CEO Mr. Gordon Balsa from MEI, and of course, you can never leave out your dear wife, Dr. Sinqui, and my three children, Stephan, Corey, and Chelsea, who would love to have been here, but had to be in school. And they have all tolerated me and allowed me to pursue this partnership. Today is a day of tremendous and great thanksgiving for many and for much that we are here to celebrate on this auspicious occasion of groundbreaking for the Cancer Center Eastern Caribbean. The Cancer Center is the brainchild of Prime Minister Baldwin Spencer and fashioned with our partnered care model representing multiple strategic partnerships between Global Health Partners Limited, the government of Antigua and Barbuda, the heads and governments of the OECS Caribbean states, and MEI Healthcare Incorporated. This was all initiated by Prime Minister Spencer in July of 2009 during a CARICOM services symposium here in Antigua. And this was when he invited me to build a cancer center here in Antigua like the one we have in the Bahamas, the Cancer Center Bahamas. I initially told him that, sir, you know, we spent about $12 to $14 million on our center in the Bahamas, and I'm not entirely sure that level of investment for 80,000 people, we have a population of 350,000, but that level of investment for a cancer center here could be accommodated by just 80,000 people. And he says, oh, Dr. Brown, I would like it built in Antigua, but I want it for the entire OECS. I immediately had to think on my feet, because now that he stuffed that down my throat, I had to think on my feet, and I suggested to him, sir, I have 3 provisos. If we can agree to those, we can start planning for this center immediately. And the first proviso was that himself and the government of Antigua and Barbuda had to commit to send their patients for whom they are responsible, the constituents of Antigua and Barbuda, those that would develop cancer, unfortunately, that the government would commit to send those patients to its cancer center in Antigua, the Cancer Center Eastern Caribbean. He said, that sounds reasonable. I said, yes, but I still need the commitment. And he must have thought I was this little impetuous fella. And then he said, you had 3. I said, yes. And the second is that you need to get your colleague prime ministers to commit their countries in the OECS to likewise pledge to support with their patients with cancer from the Caribbean. Not referring to the private community, these are the government-supported patients. Sorry. And he was still keeping count. And he said, so what is the third? I said, and the third is, it's going to be built in Antigua but the OECS needs to own it. And so I would suggest that you make best efforts to get your colleague heads of state to commit to even take a nominal position, equity position, in the Cancer Center, so that it will always be the Cancer Center for the OECS. We were able to get a memorandum of understanding executed, and the rest essentially is history. The only thing that antedated the Prime Minister's invitation on, I think, the second or third day of the CARICOM meeting was the day before. A young gentleman called me after I had given my talk at that meeting by the name of Fitzmaurice Christian, and he pulled me aside and he said, you know, we might be interested in you building a cancer center here in Antigua using your model from the Bahamas. And I said, well, we can talk. And again, the rest is history. Now, when I returned home to the Bahamas on July 1st, 1990, I had been away for some 15 years at the time, after high school and in university and medical school, training and specializing in internal medicine and cardiology in Canada, Jamaica, and the USA. And yes, I'm a cardiologist, not a cancer specialist. What I found when I returned home, however, was like many of our colleagues in medicine and other disciplines, there was little infrastructure and technology locally available to allow us to practice at the level at which we would have become accustomed to during our training in our foreign territories, whether it's the US, Canada, the UK, and other territories. Like many, I had a number of choices in front of me. One, and this is probably the commoner one, I could moan and groan about what we did or did not have, and hope and pray that the government eventually puts it in place, even with their limited resources. Or I could just go back to the US, and so I could practice as I would have done so before, and in such an instance, rob my people of the limited resources that they had invested in me to go off and do training. Neither of those were considered palatable to myself. And the third option, of course, was that personally and privately invest in the needed infrastructure and technology in our countries where feasible, build local capacity, and most importantly, ensure that access is afforded to those who ordinarily could not afford our expensive and essential services. This ought to be done, in my opinion, by the government to ensure access to all. I chose the latter, clearly, and since 1990, and now 2 months before our 23rd anniversary of our partnered care model in our Bahamas with respect to cardiac, cancer, imaging, breast, and dialysis services to all of our people, we celebrate this major milestone in being a part of bringing state-of-the-art cancer care, not only to a country like the Bahamas, as in Antigua and Barbuda, but to the OECS, 9 countries, some 600,000 to 700,000 people, and a sub-region within the greater context of our wider and greater Caribbean community, or CARICOM. This is indeed a major highlight and special milestone for us all. Myself and Dr. Porter's careers of service to the people, to the Bahamas, and now to the great people of Antigua and Barbuda, and the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, and of course, the Greater Caribbean. Prime Minister Spencer, our efforts and the privilege for me to present at 2 heads of government meetings in Anguilla and St. Lucia have not been in vain, have borne clear and tangible fruit, and I take this opportunity to personally thank you and the heads of government for both receiving me and lending their support to this model of strategic partnership between the public, private, and user sectors in our partner care model as we cooperate in bringing cancer care to our people here at home. I thank you and look forward to serving our people in the sub-region for many, many years to come. Thank you and God bless.